A new immortal frame has arisen. But how immortal is she? And how long can she keep it up? Wait, that sounded kind of weird. What's good, folks? It's NightmareFrame here with a new Warframe video looking at the new Dagath augment. To understand the new augment, you have to understand how the ability works, so you can see how the augment interacts with it. The augment is for the third ability, Grave Spirit. When this ability is active, you grant yourself a critical damage buff on your weapons for the entire mission, and it synergizes with Doom, her second ability, where it increases the damage on enemies affected by her too. And you cannot recast the ability until you die, fall off the map, or get nullified. Although, if you do die, the ability grants you a second life. So when taking a lethal hit, you go into this spectral mode, which has you become invulnerable to all damage for a brief moment. However, if you want to extend this invulnerable state, it also scales with duration. And while in this state, you kill enemies to get yourself back into proper fighting shape. And when the invulnerable state is over, the third ability goes on a cooldown, while also losing your critical damage buff. And that cooldown isn't affected by anything. So now the augment, Spectral Spirit. When you initially cast the third ability, you now enter the spectral form right away, completely going invulnerable for set duration, while also retaining your critical damage buff. And when the invulnerability is over, you lose the crit damage buff and the ability goes on a cooldown. However, when you kill enemies outside of spectral form, you reduce the cooldown of the ability. So kill enough in quick succession and go back right into it. And with this augment active in the spectral form, all your attacks done on enemies will proc a free cast of Doom on enemies, which helps you stack and spread damage onto them. So you're able to spread Doom without even having to cast it or need to synergize it with her first ability. Now, the loadout I have for you today is a melee-focused build that uses a Helminth to activate neurons and up those dopamine levels. Yes, it's a red crit melee loadout, using the Zorus Glaive for massive AoE red crit explosions. Now, the way I'm getting red crits is from the Helminth ability, Wrathful Advance. This is Kullervo's ability and has you teleport to enemies and perform a melee heavy attack swing, and grants you a flat critical chance increase on all your melee weapons. However, I'm not going to use this ability to attack enemies, but cast it off to the side just for the crit chance increase, because all you have to do is teleport to a destination and it grants you the crit chance. And this synergy is pretty nice to go with Dagath's critical damage boost, a match made in an infested chair. You can use any melee combo you want, but a thrown explosive weapon just makes things easier and more brain dead to use. Not only that, it helps me kill in a larger area to reduce the cooldown faster. And if you don't want to go with a melee route, the next best thing is using energized munitions and pair it with an AoE explosive gun. Now, I want this invulnerable mode to last a long time, so I'm making sure to have as much duration as possible. Even though you can get a decent amount of duration, the ability does run out. And when it does run out, you can be in an unfortunate situation where there aren't any enemies around for you to kill to help you reduce that cooldown. All you have left to do is kill a couple of enemies or just wait. Alright, so let's move on to the Archon Shards section so you can understand a bit more. I have 3 red Tau Forge shards for that duration increase, and 2 yellow Tau Forge for the casting speed increase. Now she needs this casting speed because her third ability has this god-awful long animation. Stop letting animations shine. Hey, here we are in Steel Path, just to demonstrate the gameplay loop and some of the benefits that you're going to have while using this build. Number 1, since it has a lot of duration, you don't have to worry about running out of energy because you're going to cast your abilities once until the duration runs out. And you're going to be invulnerable, so you don't have to recast anything to regenerate your shields or to give you some survivability. And since we have a lot of duration, we're just going to focus into 2 stats, strength and duration, to keep our buffs as high as possible and to keep them up as long as possible. And because this is a melee focused build, we're only going to be using our melee, killing everything in sight. And because it's a Zorus, it does have a larger explosion radius and it's innate electric. And before we buff ourselves, we're going to perform 2 Void Slings because of that sling strength. Look anywhere else, in the ground, whatever. Activate your third ability. We're invulnerable. Throw your glaive and detonate. See how everything is dying even through walls? Because of that melee influence. Boom. red crits, everything is dying. If you pay attention on the bottom right corner, energy is already topped up. 2 Void Slings, look away, and cast your Wrathful Advance. You get your crit buff. Very, very powerful. And now we've run out of the buff for our invulnerability. Just kill enemies. Look how the duration's going down. Boom, we have it back. Reactivate it. See that annoying animation? That animation is being sped up because of the casting speed bonuses that we have. Explosions after explosions. We're doing millions and millions of damage. This will one-shot pretty much everything, especially in base steel path. And that's it, boys. Let's go back into the Orbiter and show you how this build is put together. Taking a look at that Dagath build. Now in the Arcanes, I'm going to have Molt Augmented. This is my strength increase that stacks up to 60% strength. That's just a nice additional bonus to what we're going to get overall. For the other Arcane is Arcane Fury. When you crit, you're going to get 180% melee damage. Since we're heavy attacking, we're throwing our glaives and exploding, that bonus melee damage is going to boost our overall damage as a whole. Now in the aura, we're going to use something pretty nice, and it's called Ready Steel. For those who've never seen this, aura is such a nice aura to have if you're running heavy attack builds, because it grants you 24 initial combo. This is like 2 times combo already for your heavy attacks. Pretty nice to have. Now, in the Exilus,
we'll just wait a few seconds and try casting it again. She has a very, very obvious animation, as you can see there. If I had Prime Sure-Footed, I would not have been knocked down.
Of course, with that downtime in between, you always got to be careful. Now, for my strength increases, I'm going to be running Blind Rage. Remember, efficiency is not an issue, so this is going to be a nice boost for my 2 abilities. And we're going to take this a step further with the strength increases with Precision Intensify. Now, both of these are going to be pretty nice to boost my Wrathful Advance. Wrathful Advance is the critical chance increase, the flat critical chance increase. Now, if you see right there, that's 289% flat crit. That's nearly red crit territory. But since we're using Mad Rise Void Sling for that sling strength buff, we have Molt Augmented. We're going above 300%, guaranteeing consistent red crits. And because her third ability grants you the crit damage, you're going to benefit a lot from having a high critical chance. Now, the last few things that we're going to have here are duration and survivability. Starting off with Primed Continuity for that 55% duration, taking it to 200% with the added Archon Shards there. And then Narrow Minded for additional 99%. Now we have 299, but we're not stopping there. We're going to add on Augur Message and Constitution. That's 351%, taking up my Grave Spirit to 35 and Wrathful Advance 35. Now, the last mod is, of course, going to be Adaptation for some added survivability, especially when we get out of that Grave Spirit form, and the Augment. That's it. Very simple build. Strength, duration, a little bit of survivability, and your augment. But this is the most comfortable you would ever be. You have enough survivability, you have enough duration. I mean, I would love more duration, but you have a decent amount of duration and survivability to upkeep your damage. So let's take a look at that Azorius build. Now, because we have a lot of crit chance coming from the Wrathful Advance, you don't need to mod any crit chance on your melee weapon. The stance doesn't matter. You're just throwing heavy attacks there. Whirlwind to increase the projectile flight speed, so your glaive flies faster. And further, we have more base damage here. We have Volatile Quick Return for the explosion and increasing that blast radius with the alternate fire. More initial combo to increase your damage, because when you have combo, that increases your heavy attack damage. So this is why we have Ready Steel and Corrupt Charge together. It is modded for Blast, and we're getting Electric from the weapon itself, because the Azorius does have innate electric, guaranteed electric proc. So that's easily triggering melee influence to spread those blast procs, to split electricity, and plus a lot of enemies are just going to die outright. Melee Elementalist just for some added damage. To be honest, you can even swap this out for Gladiator Might if you want a bit more critical damage, since we're going to be dealing a lot of upfront damage. You're going to notice on beefier targets, having a lot more upfront damage will get rid of them right away. And then finally, your faction damage mod, depending on what faction you're fighting against. But if you don't care too much about faction damage, you just want to have an easy, chill life, you can keep Melee Elementalist and also run Gladiator Might instead of the faction damage. And this will be more generalized build. Companion, you can use pretty much whatever companion you want, as long as you can run Tenacious Bond. Tenacious Bond is a critical damage increase to your weapons. Now you can run a Panzer Vulpaphyla, because this will just have you spread viral everywhere, a nice primer. And if you want some grouping, Nautilus this is also a decent option. However, if you want to run a gun build, the Worm Prime is also pretty good to have because it can allow you to run Reinforced Bond and Tenacious Bond because it has the largest shield pool out of all the Sentinels. Anyway, folks, this is the Immortal Dagath build, blowing things up with her glaive. For the people who enjoyed and learned something from this video, please do feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content streams and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now.